get one for $1 at McDonald's.
Vikings Game Day Live is presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Right side three. 1, 2, 3. 20, 15, 10. Touchdown!
You're watching Vikings Game Day Live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to U.S. Bank Stadium on this tailgating heaven late October day as the first place 5-1 Minnesota Vikings host the Arizona Cardinals at noon after a very fruitful bye week. Good morning, everyone. Mark Rosen here. We have a jam-packed hour-and-a-half show with you. The sun's already shining on Dawn Mitchell, so we already know that's a good morning, Dawn. I know. Plus, we have a special guest coming up around 10 a.m., Jared Allen, who's going in the Vikings Ring of Honor today. Dawn Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Pete Bursich. Later, we got Ben Lieber, of course, and Gabe Henderson, and Paul Allen, and Tatum Everett, and everyone else who I might be forgetting right now. Before we go on with the show, instead of getting bobbleheads when people arrive today, Dawn and crew, fans will be receiving these typical Jared Allen headband and mullets. Only when they come up with this perfection, Dawn. I mean, this is going to be a blast. I know I've had requests already. Oh, you're already trying to put it on here. Oh, you're just holding it up. Okay, this is a thing of beauty. So Jared will have some special surprises for Jared as well. So catch that as well, because that's going to be. I had a chance to be with him last night when he got the official purple jacket with the Williams wall and the stories, Pete, and in particular, all too well. What a character and what a hell of a football player. First topic of conversation I want to have with you guys today. The Vikings are 5-1. We know that. I want to ask the panel here, what do you like so far about this football team, Dawn? We'll start with you. And what concerns you going forward as we almost head to the halfway point of this season?
You know what, I was thinking about this, and I have a list. I have a lot of things that I like. Justin Jefferson. I love the punter, Ryan Wright. I love Za'Darius and Hunter together. I love the attitude on offense. I love all that, and I love that they're winning close games. There's so many things, right? And even P2's renaissance. I love. If you pick it apart, there's a lot of things I love. But the things that maybe concern me is the red zone scoring, and letting teams hang around in these games and not finishing them off, and also, giving up chunk yardage still on defense. So those are my key three.
Ron, I'll let you follow up with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this team offensively, they're pretty solid. There's room to grow. When you think about Irv Smith, I mean, honestly, and I love this son. I mean, it's making my skin glow. But when you think about the offense, and Dawn did bring up the red zone scoring, but 26% first down or touchdown in the red zone is number one in the NFL, or fifth in the NFL. So Kevin O'Connell is doing a great job again, and then vice versa, the red zone defense. They face the fewest amount of plays in the red zone. So they're bending, but they're not breaking. Teams are rushing on them. People are talking about how much better this defense can be, but they are not allowing teams to enter the red zone, which is the fewest amount of plays. I think it's 54 plays they've seen in the red zone from the 20 and in. So, and that's the best in the NFL. So I love the fact that we've been so hyper-focused on offense, and this is an offensive team, but the defense is doing just what we said. If they can finish in the top 15, this team can be really good, and I think that's where they're trending that way.
Pete Bursich, as you've had time to reflect during this bye week, from your bird's eye view, what do you feel pros and cons about this football 5-1 Vikings team?
Well, they're finding a way to win close games, and that's number one on the big picture. That's huge. Offensively, I'm still waiting to see what this running game is going to look like. Schematically, what's our identity in the run going to be? You have a Dalvin Cook, who we saw against the Dolphins, against an 8-man box, and a point of the game when you needed to run the football. Everybody knew it, and he still was able to break a big one for a touchdown. You mentioned the red zone. The good news is we haven't faced a lot of snaps. The bad news is we've given up points 80% of the time. We're the 32nd ranked team in the red zone. So defensively, sharpening that up, I think tightening up some coverages. I think Chandon Sullivan is a guy that I'm looking to make some more plays. He's, so far this year, we've seen Cameron Bynum and Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson and, Cameron Dantzler starting to come around. We need to see Chandon Sullivan get involved and make some more plays. And then up front, I think it's all going to depend on the development of DJ Wanham and Patrick Jones. As long as those guys can be viable pass rushers as backups, this defense is going to have a lot of depth. And, we're going to tighten things up. We got to have that pass rush with the way we play, I think, in our secondary.
And, Don, you were in Miami, it seems like a month ago, a couple of weeks ago when the Vikings won their last game. Defense kind of saved the day that day, and I think this is Kevin O'Connell's biggest challenge right now. Coming off the bye week, the Packers lost at Washington. They got Buffalo tonight. Things are looking almost too rosy, so to speak. But tell us about the effort you saw in Miami and how that worked for them.
We mentioned the defense, and even though they give up a lot of yardage through the air when it comes to Tyreek Hill and also Waddle, I did like the fact that they had 5 sacks, the interception, the fumble recovery. So they came through when they needed to. Justin Jefferson, of course, another 103-yard. Whenever he's 100 and plus, it's been 3 straight games. Fantastic. But I would love to see him actually score a touchdown. It's been 5 games without a touchdown for him, but the yardage has been fantastic. So they need to keep that up, and that would be really good for this team.
Your old friend Teddy Bridgewater had a tough afternoon in relief.
Oh, he did. And you know what? He looked a little rattled, but then he regained some traction. Again, that's keeping them in it. So the Vikings have to make sure that whenever they see them gain traction, they have to squash it right away.
Yeah, and maybe this is who they are, Ron Johnson, the Vikings. This is, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times. It'd be nice to roll opponents and do it. Not likely to happen to them if you're looking at their schedule. Looking at Washington next week. Washington just beat the Packers a week ago. So, I mean, if you find a way to win games in the fourth quarter, that may be your identity.
Yeah, at one point, I think it was 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in every game. Kirk Cousins was the #1 statistical quarterback for passer rating in the NFL. And I'm trying to figure out how to talk over these drums, so hopefully everybody can hear me at home. But when you think about this team, and Dawn made a great point about sacks on Teddy Bridgewater. At home, 11 sacks, 7th in the NFL. That means this crowd is very key. This crowd is instrumental. They are doing a great job of keeping the quarterback off kilter and not being able to get it. I think the Dolphins, that was just towards the end of the game, having to get a lot of passes in, and a tough situation for Teddy to have to come in when they assumed there'd be a different quarterback. So I think at the end of the day, this team is good. This defense does have the juice, and Pete's right. I think 35.2% first downs in the red zone. So they have to find a way to shore that up. But the good thing is they're not allowing a lot of teams to get there. So how can they merge those two and actually put a great game together offensively and defensively? This might be the one.
Real quick, what I really liked was you saw a lot of man-to-man, and there weren't a lot of guys open. There wasn't a lot of space being created early. And once the offensive coaches kind of figured that out, we got a couple big plays to Jefferson. They were man-to-man routes that were man-to-man beating routes. So it just took them a little while to figure out what exactly it is that Miami's doing. And I think that might be something that they're getting this year. We used to get that with Randy Moss all the time, where teams would completely change their coverages to stop Randy Moss. So whatever you saw on film wasn't really relevant. I think they're seeing a little bit of that here with with how far defenses are going to go to slow down Justin Jefferson.
Pete, you know a lot about special teams. You've been a big part of your football career, and you had a chance to sit down with head coach Kevin O'Connell to talk about the failed fake punt the Dolphins tried to pull on the Vikings a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, big play.
Welcome back to another edition of Film Room with head coach Kevin O'Connell. And, Coach, it's always great to get a win going into the bye. And what I'm excited about is, number one, we start with special teams, which is my personal favorite. Yeah. But we get one from every single phase of this game.
Yeah, and that's how this game kind of went, Pete. It was really a game where we needed to rely at different points in time on really all 3 phases. And as special teams have done time and time again this year for us, Matt Daniels and Ben Kotwicka doing a great job with this group. I really wanted to highlight this play because Miami, I thought our defense was doing a nice job, although we gave up some yardage, really not allowing them to get points at critical times in the game. So they felt the need in their own part of the field here to try to fake a punt against us. And what I thought was really neat about this is I sat in on the special teams meeting the night before at the hotel, and Matt Daniels talked for almost half the meeting about that one play tomorrow when they fake a punt, and he showed a couple variations. We had not seen this before, but you can see Metellus is absolutely dialed in. He actually was able to kind of hear some dialogue that sounded a little different to him than maybe some of the other punts that our defense forced in the game. And you'll see him just activate the instincts, and then what makes Josh such a special player on teams as well as when he gets snaps on defense is when he sees it, his ability to trigger and go make a play. So you'll see him highlighted right there, triggers and runs, and then it's just a matter of once you get there, you still got to make the play. This ended up being a 4th and 1, 4th and 1.5, whatever it was. So to make that play, make that tackle right then and there, real momentum play for our team. And as we go to the sideline view on this, I do want to highlight a guy that we've talked a lot about this year, and that would be Brian Asamoah right here. You'll see him, here he is right here in that 3-point stance, but what you're going to notice is he's basically going to do what we call, he's going to destroy 2 blocks. One of these blockers is responsible to kind of peel out here and handle Metellus as he goes to try to track down the guy that he's aware of, now has the football running to try to get what essentially became that 1 yard right there. Brian's going to come upfield and not only disrupt the man blocking him, but he's also going to take on that player right there who never actually gets a chance to get a hand on Josh Metellus. You see it right there, just unbelievable physical play, instinctive play by Josh, but getting a real a helping hand from Brian right there, being physical at the point of attack.
Right, not getting pushed back because then the running back can't get that angle.
And we're talking about just a yard. You can see it right there. It may be inside of a yard at that situation. They're thinking, hey, this is a darn near guaranteed conversion with the execution they probably thought they would have right there. But that's just the physicality of Brian, and then obviously the awareness of Josh Metellus making a huge play in the game.
Right. Sure. And we will see you on Sunday against those Arizona Cardinals.
And Kevin, coming up next, one-on-one with Patrick Peterson. You know he's looking forward to this game against his former team. Tatum Everett sits down with the veteran defensive back right after this. And we'll also have talk about stopping the Cardinals. Yeah, the big task for the Vikings defense against Kyler Murray and friends. Stay with us on Vikings Game Day here at U.S. Bank Stadium on this gorgeous early Halloween day.
Reach for what works.
Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
I'm not worried about this squad. In fact, this might be the best thing for us. This week, you know, nobody's going to give us a chance. Going to Buffalo and Sunday Night Football, the chance to get exposed, shoot, might be the best thing for us.
You know, we're playing to win, so, you know, losing is no fun for any of us. We put a lot into it, and yeah, we're just coming up short.
Wow. Welcome back to Vikings Game Day. Yeah, the tale of a couple of quarterbacks who are looking at the standings of the upside down a little bit right now. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and back with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Pete Bursich, Mark Rosen here at U.S. Bank as we get ready for the Vikings and the Cardinals, flying way under the radar, the Minnesota Vikings in particular. But I don't know if we need a football analyst or a therapist to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Don, let's start with you. They play at Buffalo tonight. It might be the best thing for us. Has he watched this team play in Buffalo? I don't know if that's the solution to what's ailing the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers right now.
You know, it's like he wants his team to be humiliated. Right? He's already thrown his players under the bus, which you don't do. If you're having a hard time, you don't say, maybe some players shouldn't be playing. We need to cut their reps. I just don't like how he's handling it that way. I mean, every team goes through ups and downs, but he's kind of being a crybaby about it. But he's thrown his teammates under the bus, and no one's saying anything publicly yet. But, ooh, it's got to be a frosty locker room.
Ron, as a former great wide receiver, do the wide receivers make the quarterback, or does the quarterback make the wide receivers? Because what is going on? Lazard's out again. We know that Devontae Adams. What's happening in Green Bay?
I think it's both. I think quarterback and receiver go hand in hand. You look at Calvin Johnson, making Matthew Stafford great. Matthew Stafford making some players great. Tom Brady making unknown receivers great. And then Randy Moss coming making, Tom Brady look like Thor. It's give and take. And Dawn's right. You cannot make those comments because those young guys in that locker room like Romeo Dubs and some of those guys are coming back every week and they're like, is he talking about me? Who is he talking about? Which guy shouldn't be playing? And that just doesn't help their confidence. That doesn't help them go out in the field and make more plays. I love when Kevin O'Connell said that when Justin Jefferson or whoever, somebody was wrong in that play, and Kirk Cousins lost his mind for a little quick second, which was great to see. Great to see the fire. Kevin O'Connell came over, calmed him down. Next drive out, he has a great drive. And so I think that's the things you have to do. Kirk Cousins will never get on the mic and say, so-and-so ran the wrong route or so-and-so needs to do this better. The offense, like that's what a good team looks like in cohesiveness. When you start pointing fingers, that's a guy asking to get traded or I don't want to be here anymore.
But Pete, still a lot of football to go. Is it easy? Can you write the Packers off? Can you write Aaron Rodgers off?
No, I don't think so. I think of the two of them, I think Aaron Rodgers is still closer to being what he once was than Tom Brady is. And what Brady's finding out is that it's a lot of fun when you win, and this game is not a lot of fun when you lose. It's all that work and everything else to not win a game. You watch the Packers against Washington. They were just a couple receptions away from really getting an opportunity to win that football game. So I don't think the Packers are that far away from turning it around. It's just some key receptions at some key times. Guys, Rodgers, his level of football, his football IQ is very, very high. And those guys are just not going to learn it around him through osmosis. It takes time. And I was very interested to see how much of a loss Devontae Adams was going to be. And as we're seeing, it's huge to not have him around.
Well, all eyes will be on Aaron Rodgers tonight in Buffalo against arguably maybe the best team in football right now, the Buffalo Bills.
They're number one on defense and offense, so I guess that makes them the best team.
I love what you wish
osmosis. Like that's the third time this week I've heard
that's
osmosis.
That's how you used to learn.
Hey, we're going to go down to the field of Tatum. I have to believe it's got to be what a blast to sit down with Patrick Peterson this week. He's such a eloquent man to talk with about anything, but in particular getting ready for this game against his former team today.
Yeah, you got that right, Mark. But I wanted to touch base that the windows are open down here. I'm sure you guys have already talked about it. The breeze is coming in. Who would have thought we'd have this kind of weather October 30th? And maybe the little bit of cold is a bit of an advantage. I might be getting ahead of myself, but I know Patrick Peterson is excited to be out here today. As you mentioned, it was a homecoming of sorts for him last week in Miami. Now his former team is coming here after that loss last season. I got to sit down, as you mentioned, with him, and we braved the elements a little bit up there on the Wilf deck just to talk about this matchup, what it means to him, and moving forward, what it's going to take to get through the rest of the season. Does the year 1977 mean anything to you?
1977.
I didn't think so, but it's the last time the Cardinals beat the Vikings in Minnesota.
Okay.
A long time ago.
Yeah,
but
very long time ago.
It is. If we fast forward to you in Minnesota right now, it's your second season, and for the second time you play your former team, the Arizona Cardinals. What is it like a year removed? What are your emotions like?
Man, honestly, it's all in the past now. It was high emotions last year. going into that game, going back to that arena.
Well, Patrick Peterson has been anticipating this return to Arizona since that day in May when the schedule was released.
This year is totally different. I have an opportunity to now kind of have my feet cemented into this defense, with this organization, with my teammates.
Next thing you do, follow me! Stop on 3. 1, 2, 3, stop!
And we want to keep that, that fire, that confidence that we started with the season coming out of the bye week.
Play my thing, yes, sir!
You had a lot of fire, a lot of confidence back in your hometown in Miami, where you secured your 30th career interception, which continued the streak of one interception in every one of your 12 NFL seasons.
Let's go!
That's amazing, Pat. But when you think about what it boils down to, the 30th one in your hometown, what was that like?
It was amazing because I never won in that stadium before.
Hey, I'm back home. Mark my word. I'm getting a pick today. Watch what I say.
I never had a pick against the Miami Dolphins, so everything just came into one.
And it's intercepted by Fort Lauderdale native Patrick Peterson. Put some glue on your hand.
It was a dream come true because I always wanted to make those type of plays in front of my friends and family, people that watched me grow up throughout my childhood, college career. And to see me do it on the big stage, it was quite remarkable.
He sat there, waited on it, got the interception.
Now, you took the celebration to the next level, too, adding the gritty. There was like a whole weird mashup of everything. And now the defense is, you say that the defense is coming together to choreograph a new celebration dance. You got any hints for us?
Nah, you just have to wait and see. We want to be a little bit more dialed in the next time we get opportunity to do it.
Speaking of dialed in, Cam Dantzler playing opposite you. You've now been with him or played alongside him for more than a season. Where have you seen the most growth in him from this last year to year 3?
Just his confidence, self-awareness, understanding. Like I tell him all the time, like, this defense is only going to be as successful as you and I are. Yeah, you have the pass rushers. Yes, you got to be able to stop the run, but teams are throwing the ball in the end zone. If we do a good job of keeping receivers out of the end zone and on the stat sheet, we're going to have a pretty good opportunity to win it because we know our offense can score at the best of them. We know we have playmakers all over the field. Now it's going to be upon us to not allow teams to score, allow passing touchdowns into the end zone because, like I said, teams want to throw the ball nowadays. That's why NFL is protecting the quarterbacks. That's why quarterbacks are getting all of this money. They want to see the ball thrown in the air. And if we're able to do that at a high level each and every Sunday, more than likely we'll come out on the winning side of the ball game. But that's just one of the things, and it's just confidence.
12 years in the league now. Where do you find your confidence now?
Man, just still, I'm always striving to be the best. Even 12 years in, I may not get talked about as being one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but I still feel like I'm the best cornerback in this league. But at the same time, I play this game to be recognized as the best, and I want to be challenged. At the end of the day, I want to be challenged.
He has such a great attitude, and when I asked him about how you take this 5-1 start and build on it using that momentum after the bye, he said, I am preaching to these young guys that everything that's happened up until now is just makeup. He says he calls it L'Oreal because everything doesn't matter yet. What's coming is what matters the most. That's ball in October, November, December, and further on. And so it's a great attitude to have, a great veteran presence there in the Vikings locker room. More from Vikings Game Day Live after this.
You're watching Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
That's different.
That's how Tony Dungy was. Oh.
The doors are about to open here at U.S. Bank. I have a feeling the fans, at least a lot of them, will be remaining outside for as long as possible to soak in this late October weather here in the Twin Cities. Spectacular day, as Tatum mentioned. The big doors are open. The fresh air will be pouring in here. At noon, kickoff the Vikings at 5-1 against the Arizona Cardinals. Mark Rosen back with Ron Johnson and Pete Bursich. Ben Lieber will be joining us in a minute. Don Mitchell back on the field. A lot more to come, including a live interview with Jared Allen, who will be inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor here at halftime today, and what a celebration that will be. But right now it's time for some other games to talk about. Our Fox Bet app, if you want to go to that, to check that out, the Super Six. And I know a lot of people have a lot of fun with this every single week. We're not going to talk about the Vikings-Cardinals game at the moment. We'll let you guys decide that on your own, basically picking who you think is going to win and why. But let's start with the kind of an intriguing game, guys. The Bears and the Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott is back at quarterback for Dallas. Ron Johnson, the Bears coming off a big win against New England.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears looks like they figured out the run game maybe a little bit. I think Justin Fields in the pass game has to get it going, but the Cowboys are still the Cowboys. I'm going to go Cowboys +6.
Right. And I mean, the Bears trade Robert Quinn, right? And then,
why?
That's exactly right. And then you have the other guys on the team, they're up there crying. Roquan Smith crying because Robert Quinn's gone.
That's his boy.
They don't have a chance.
That's his homie.
They don't have
you
a
can't
chance.
cut your boy.
Despite Dak Prescott coming back and being the quarterback, they're still going to win they're still going to cover the spread.
Panthers and Falcons, I don't think anybody cares about that game. Honestly.
Wait, hold on.
Wait a minute. Come on. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
No.
NFC South?
Come on. Okay,
it is the new NFC
Here's one.
East, though.
The Steelers with their rookie quarterback facing the only unbeaten team left in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. Seems like a tall task for Pittsburgh today.
Yeah, I think the Eagles' defense is really good. Pickett, they're going to make his life a nightmare. I'm going to go Eagles +10.
Yeah,
I think the Eagles. The Eagles will win, but they will not cover the spread.
Really?
I think Pickett's playing better, and I just think that the Steelers are going to give them it's a Pennsylvania. It's the East-West. It's the two states of Pennsylvania.
49ers against the defending Super Bowl champions, struggling LA Rams. 49ers look like a little bit better football team right now. Do you have a good feel for this one?
I like Christian McCaffrey. I think he gives another dimension to this offense. You saw him early on, and that was like what? 7 days of learning the offense, and it was really simple. The more he goes, and he's a Stanford grad, as they keep bringing up, so he's smart. So the more they can put on his plate, the better this offense for the 49ers will be. I'm going to go 49ers. This one +3.
Yeah, the Niners in LA, it may as well be a home game with all the fans.
Yeah, no kidding.
Down there, Shanahan has the LA's number. They're going to want to bounce back from the embarrassment against Kansas City. I think everything points to the San Francisco covering the spread.
Very quickly, maybe one of the surprise teams in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks, doing it. And they're playing the New York Giants. There's another team that's shocking everyone with at least their record right now.
Yeah, and I think Kenneth Walker is going to take this game and say, you know what, everyone's talking about Saquon Barkley, but I'm the guy. So I think Seattle will cover.
I'm laughing because wait till you get a hold of Ben Lieber. That'll be coming up next. We're going to take a break right now.
And Jared Allen just walked into the building.
Jared Allen is in the building. We're going to have Jared live on set as well. We'll go back down to Don Mitchell in the field. A lot more to come right here on Vikings Game Day Live from U.S. Bank Stadium.
With an entourage. We got 2, Jared.
Today's top 10 stories in the first 10 minutes.
This is Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Welcome back to U.S. Bank Stadium. A lot of moving parts going on here in this pregame show. Getting ready for Jared Allen's appearance. But right now, let's go back to Don Mitchell on the field as we look at Ben Lieber. Welcome, Ben. Pete Bursich, Ron Johnson somewhere. I don't know. Don, you got some headlines. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about with the Vikings offense and what we can expect today.
You know, absolutely. Everyone is having eyes, of course, on Justin Jefferson as he is looking for his fourth straight game of 100 or more receiving yards. Now, of course, Kirk Cousins has another thing on the horizon for him personally, 24 completions, and he will hit the 3,000 completion mark. That means he's just the 31st NFL quarterback to ever do so. So we'll see if that happens today. Now, when you talk about Justin Jefferson, he has 654 receiving yards so far this season, but only 2 touchdowns. So he, of course, would like to get into the end zone. But there's also a little Adam Thielen watch as well, a personal thing to keep an eye on for him. 6 receiving passes away from third all-time on the Vikings receivers list. If he does that, he will pass tight end Steve Jordan. 7 receptions today would give Thielen 500 for his career. So a lot to look at when it comes to the Vikings offense. Later on, we'll talk about the Vikings defense, but when it comes to defense of the past, we were showing you earlier, you guys, these mullets that are going on. I'll sport this one for you next live shot. How about that? It might go great with my blonde locks. We'll send it back to you.
Don, we got the real thing right now, and he's chattering nonstop. Jared Allen is with us on set. I don't know who that guy is next to you, Jared, but
look handsome is what he is.
Former teammate here.
I need the box.
Handsome.
Oh, my goodness.
Halloween couldn't come at a perfect time.
Welcome. It was a glorious night last night when you first got the purple jacket, all the ceremony happening at halftime. I'll turn it over to your former teammate in a minute, but just give us your initial thoughts about being back here today. What an honor, and what a great thing to have your family here in attendance.
100%. Like I said, it's humbling, you know, to be a part of this. I was telling everybody last night that one thing I've always done throughout my career is when I go into stadiums, I always look up, right? And I always see the great names that are surrounding me, and it's always been an inspiration to me. And I said it might sound kind of cocky, but that was always my expectation.
Right.
And I personally think if you're not chasing greatness, you're wasting your time. And so that was always my mentality. And so to come back all these years later with all the memories I have from this organization with guys like Ben and my other former teammates and staff and my family, my kids being old enough to kind of understand it now, it's very surreal. It's very humbling to be able to share the stage with guys like Alan Page, Johnny Randall, Kevin Williams, one of my dear, probably my best friend in the NFL, right? I mean, that dude, I owe him a lot. We were joking last night, like, I don't know why everybody slid the line to him and double-teamed him when I had like 15 sacks. And so we're watching some of the film and the highlights. He's like, this is dumb. Like, why are you not talking to you? So I had to give him an extra thanks. But it's truly, I guess if I could say one thing about this, I hope when people see my name up there, they realize it's just not me. I realize it's everybody a part of me. I was able to go in detail a little bit last night with how special and how each member of our defense at the time played a role for me to be successful. So,
well, Ben, you had a big smile on your face all night last night, and I'll let you take it from here as a former teammate, and you know more than anyone here on this set, certainly about this man.
Is my mic on?
No, your mic. I can't hear your mic for some reason.
You want mine?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
We just want to. Maybe the mullet knocked off your audio. I don't know what.
All right. The only question I was going to ask you. This is really classy right now. I enjoyed the story that you told last night about being unique. You had that moment where you're like, as a rookie, you had to do all these different sack dances and stuff. And then, one of the players, I'll let you tell the story, said, you got to find something that's unique to you. And so not only is the mullet unique, your whole sack dance. Can you tell the story of how the calf roping origin story started?
So I was telling everybody last night, actually my wife and kids were my wife asked where did it come from? So I grew up on a horse ranch, right? I grew up, learned how to calf rope at a young age. But I was, Neil, as a rookie, you do what you're told, right? That's kind of just the rule of thumb. So all the vets used to make me do like different things, like the lawnmower, spirit fingers, like high kicks, all this dumb crap every time I got a sack, right? And so Neil Smith got honored into the Ring of Honor, and I got 2 sacks that game, and I did this hit the home run deal. So we had dinner that night, and he was like, "Hey man, I can't thank you enough. Like, it meant the world to me that you did that for me." He was like, "Come up with something, like you need something that's unique to you, that'll stick, that you can do after every one." And so I got one of my good buddies, we were talking about it, like we grew up calf roping. And so I was like, yeah, so when you calf rope, right, you put the calf down, you tie it up, throw your hands up, they stop the clock. So we're like, let's just stop the clock on quarterbacks. And it stuck. And then the mullet came on a bet. The mullet stuck. And we just kept things rocking. So, yeah, I like to have fun. And I think that's what the fans appreciate. I hope they appreciate it, is that they saw my genuine spirit out on the field, and they saw how much I thoroughly enjoyed playing this game, and decided to try to have fun with it.
Well, I got the sense of how genuine your emotions are about your former teammates and this community as well, and how much after the big trade, and Rob Brzezinski was there last night from Kansas City to Minnesota. The Vikings took a chance, and they knew. You said, I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm going to make this work for you.
My greatest fear in life is probably failure. I'm not afraid to fail. I think that's, what makes people great. But I never want to be that guy, and Ben can attest to this. You don't ever, I say I'm a selfish football player. I'm an extremely selfish football player. I know that. But within a team setting, like, I don't ever want to be the guy on film for why we lost. And I'll never forget my first game here in Green Bay. We have our production points. I don't know if I was nervous or just trying too hard, but I came in, I had like a -4 production point. I wrote that on my wristband, on my wrist tape, every single game I ever played here in Minnesota to remind myself never to suck. Like, don't be the guy. You cannot be the guy for why your team loses. And that was what motivated me. So, yeah, but it's, I guess, that's, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that.
I'm just glad to hear a defensive end say that he was selfish, because Pete and Ben give receivers crap all the time for being selfish. So it's great to hear a defensive guy saying.
So you're admitting you're selfish.
Yeah.
You're just saying it's okay.
You're just saying it's okay. It's okay to be selfish, and this is proof that selfish can work.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's selfishness within the scheme of whatever it is. I tell people all the time, like, if I decided, I was telling Ben before he threw me under the bus last night.
I threw him under the bus just a little bit last night. I would say this about you, Jared. You were selectively selfish.
Yes. But that was my point. I was calculating, right? I knew I'd studied enough to I could pick something up, and if I got my butt chewed on the sideline, but if I was right, it's going to be a big play, right? It was what it was. But Ben, I was telling him, like, it was so nice having a guy, of his stature and caliber behind me, because we learned to play as a tandem, obviously, right? Like, so he learned to slow down a little bit, because I'll just play out. I'll make you right. That's what I should best say. Ben constantly made me right. Yeah. But yeah, if greatness is a thin line, so if I'm wrong and I missed, I'm a failure. I'd probably get kicked out the league. Luckily, I was right more times than not, and it worked out well.
I wish we could talk to you all the rest of the show.
This should be the show.
This could be. You know how much the fans are going to love this. I know that you have a great association and a great kinship with the fans, but wearing the headband, the whole bit today with the mullet. They're going to love this, Jared. They love you.
It's, you know what, like I said, it's better than getting rocks thrown at you. So I will say Minnesota's always made me feel like home. That's why I even when I was all done, there was no other place I was going to retire. Although I wish they would have given me like a one-day, salary, but that didn't happen.
Maybe still work that out.
Yeah, it's always great to come back here. Like I said, it always feels like home.
Well, enjoy the moment. It's going to be fabulous at halftime. Jared Allen going to the Vikings. Jared. There's a lot of fans around here showing their support as well. It's going to be a very special moment. Don't miss it at halftime today. The Vikings honoring Jared Allen. Stay with us. We're going to talk about Kyler Murray, what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals, preview what's going on with this young man, and what the Vikings have to do to try to contain him today. Stay with us.
8:35 on Fox 9. Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
I mean, that was just one of those things on the field. We had a difference of opinion. He said I didn't look good on TV, acting that fiery. So he said, I don't know, this is a Gen Z thing. You're on TV, so calm down. I'm like, I like showing emotion.
Like I said, he's real animated over there on the sideline sometimes. So it's always, it's never, calm down. We're good. We're gonna make it right. We ended up scoring, so that was good.
And welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live. Mark Rosen along with Ron Johnson, Ben Lieber, Pete Bursich. A great segment with Jared Allen. Will be honored again at halftime today for the Vikings Ring of Honor. We just saw the little famous soundbite with the Kyler Murray and Kingsbury on the sidelines. And not that it's unusual. Ben, will welcome you back into the show, first of all. But was it much ado about nothing, or was it because of an after effect of, Kyler Murray's not studying enough, he's playing too many video games, or is it just one of those moments?
No, I really think it's just one of those moments. You got to keep in mind, these two guys have known each other for a long time, going all the way back to high school when Cliff Kingsbury was recruiting him. So they've known each other for a long time. I just think this is just the next evolution of Kyler Murray. He gets a fat contract. He is the captain of that team, and now he's just maturing into that role of truly being a leader. And I think there are times where leaders have to show some intensity, a little bit of fire. I don't know if he was right or wrong, but I do think in a general sense, the way they handled the press conference at the end of the game, it sounded like, look, this is much to do about nothing, and it's just the competitive spirit.
Well, we're moving forward for Ron Johnson. DeAndre Hopkins back, his second game back from suspension, huge impact. How much does he truly impact Murray and truly impact this Arizona offense?
I mean, there's a reason they call him Nuke. Like, he is a weapon. Like, I mean, when you think about this offense, it goes through him now. Kyler Murray knows he can throw it up. This kid has one of the biggest sets of hands as far as a receiver goes in the NFL. His catch radius, I know we use that word a ton, but his catch radius is unheard of when you think about where you can throw the ball, what kind of one-handed, two-handed catches he can make, and then it's a security blanket. Like, when all hell breaks loose, if I need to throw a ball and somebody's man covered, I'm throwing it there because I know he's going to protect me and save me.
Pete Bursich, a wild game last year. Kyler Murray threw for the 400 yards, a close game over the Vikings, high scoring, which we don't see a lot of in the NFL this year. So when you think about him and what he can bring, I know we're going to talk about containing him in a minute, but you look at what the Vikings defense has to do to try to keep these guys under control a little, because he's a wild card out there.
He is. He's definitely a great athlete. And one of the things that's a little different is that they do called runs with him, meaning that they have design plays where he is going to run the football. If you get into third and short and he's in a pistol, he's going to keep the football. If he's under center, he's going to hand it off. This offense, he's the man. He goes through this. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, you watch what he did last week. There were a couple of nice throws that he made, but most of the time Hopkins just was catching hitches. But if you look at the spread, before Hopkins came back, we were 7-point favorites. That narrowed to 3.5 after everybody had the chance to watch Hopkins play last week and the amount of productivity that man can bring to the table.
Well, you got to keep in mind, last year he only rushed the ball 5 times in the Vikings game. He scrambled a ton.
Right.
We saw him extend some plays. But to Pete's point, he said a couple of weeks ago to Cliff Kingsbury, and he said it to the media, like, I want to run more. Give me the ball. I want to run more. So, like I said, we did a decent job of keeping him from rushing the ball last year. But I think this year, especially this point in the season, there's more of an emphasis on him actually getting the ball on third and short.
We'll get into some of the X's and O's here with Pete Bursich to talk about what it does to contain Kyler Murray, if that's possible. How the Vikings defensively are going to approach playing him again today as well.
Welcome back to another edition of Vikings Film Room, brought to you by the Vikings Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Pete Bursich. Well, the Minnesota Vikings got to enjoy their long bye weekend with the big win over the Miami Dolphins. However, those pesky Arizona Cardinals come to town this Sunday, led by a guy named Kyler Murray. Now, we all know what Kyler Murray's all about, but let's take a look at the film and see what the Vikings have to do to slow this guy down. Now, if you want to have any hope of slowing down this Arizona Cardinals offense, it starts with this guy, Kyler Murray. $243 million contract. He's trying to earn every penny of it. What makes him so difficult to defend is all the things that he can do. And in this case, this is a programmed quarterback run. So he can not only throw, he can scramble, but he can also run. And watch exactly how they set this up. You're going to see these linebackers are man-to-man on the tight end and the running back. So when these guys shift, it pulls all that coverage over. Now at the end of this play, you're going to see a jet sweep right here. And if you notice, all these eyes on the defenders, they're all looking this way. These guys are just window dressing, pulling everybody out. What they don't see are the guard and the tackle pulling to kick out the defensive end and to wrap around, and they block this thing to the hilt. Watch this. Kyler Murray takes that step, sets up that block, gets to the second level. Great scrambler, great runner, but Kyler Murray gets some called runs too. All right, we talked about him as a runner, but he's also good at scrambling. Now, these Cardinals were 3 of 10 on third down, and this is a 3rd and 10 that they managed to convert. You'll see that the Saints defensive line, they're going to stun underneath and try to do this inside. Now, once they do that, this defensive end loops around. He's either going to loop in one of these 2 A gaps, center turns away, he comes in this way. Look at this guard. His back is turned to the defensive lineman. They have this thing, they have him dead to rights. But as this play develops, notice the defensive end, the penetrator. He thinks that he has Kyler Murray dead to rights. He thinks he can get there and tackle him. But Murray is such a great athlete. We're going to see what happens. He gets outside. They lose contain, undisciplined pass rush. Murray's able to slide in for that first down. You got to be disciplined in your rush pass lanes. Now, how about Murray as a scrambler and a thrower? This, I think, is a perfect example of what he's all about as a quarterback. And I think what you're going to see here, quick rhythm passing game. Really, the tight end underneath is where this is going to want to go. Right here, you see this tight end right here? He's open, right? This is just that, boom, get to the sticks, move the chains. Nobody in his face, no pressure in the pocket, but he just doesn't want to take the short route. So option A was right there. He decides, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to extend this play and run to the outside. And if you notice, you've got the tight end, who's still open, by the way, but the wide receiver streaking all the way across the field. Murray able to, on the move, just throw an absolute laser beam where this receiver is going to be, catch, turn, another first down, big play, making things happen with his legs. So overall on Sunday, the Vikings have to stop Kyler Murray and they have to stop DeAndre Hopkins, a very, very good connection. And these guys also have 1 game under their belt. Defensively, keep an eye on number 3, Budda Baker, because he could wreck your day.
All right, from Pete Bursich to his partner in the booth, a word's eye view from the one and only Paul Allen down on the field. PA, take it away. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my, do I need to see this?
HOF, they got me to wear the Jared Allen bib, and why not? I mean, he's one of the great pass rushers in the history of Minnesota Vikings football, and he'll be the 27th member to join the coveted Ring of Honor here at US Bank Stadium and with the Minnesota Vikings. So, on a day you come out of the bye on a 4-game winning streak and you're out of the bye and looking to soar high through the final 11, Jared Allen's going to be in the building today, which means you need a lot of sacks. Can't have 69 here and not get any sacks. Last time we saw the Vikings, or you listen to it on KFAN, they had 6 against the Miami Dolphins. So, Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, sack, and in fact, let's go old school. Because Harry the Hitman was a rookie in 2012 when Jared Allen was on the Minnesota Vikings. So how about 22, the Hitman, with his first sack of the season, giving him 17 and a half in his ballyhooed career. That's the word's eye view. Hopefully we can make some sweet music today at US Bank Stadium.
My goodness. Don and PA doing it on the field right now. Oh, my goodness gracious.
I didn't even recognize Don.
I know,
like,
Don, PA is fine. Look like Braveheart. I don't know. Pete Bursich, before you disappear, final thoughts on today's game and what you just kind of broke down what they have to do to try to stop Kyler Murray. But what about the Vikings offensively?
I think for everybody at home, when you first start watching this game, take a look at the defensive backfield of Arizona. They last Thursday, when they played New Orleans, they played off coverage almost the entire time. And if they want to come in here and think that they can play off and let, Justin Jefferson and Thielen and those guys just free release and run routes, it's going to be a long day for them. Now, against Seattle, they rolled up and jammed a lot more. I just think with that the Cardinals are going to come in here and want to get aggressive. Their defensive line's a little nicked up. Their offensive line is very nicked up. But they're going to want to blitz. They're going to want to be a little bit more aggressive. Watch the play. You'll see that on the TV. Whether or not those corners are in the picture, rolling up and jamming, or out of the picture. Because against Miami, it took us a while. We didn't have guys open in the beginning. It took us a while to figure out when they were playing man and the routes to put in, and we ended up getting explosive. But what is Arizona going to do? Are they going to roll up, jam, or are they going to sit back? And I hope that they sit back, because if they do, then it's going to be a big day through the air.
Like it. Pete Bursich, have fun in the booth today. And
yeah, I got to sit there with Paul Allen the whole time.
I don't know what that means.
That means you just gave me an oxymoron. Have fun in the booth with Paul Allen.
It is. I know. I work with Common every day. I understand the feeling. Yeah. Around the NFC North, are the Chicago Bears suddenly the biggest threat to the Vikings? Whoa, what a statement that would be. We'll talk to these guys about that. Stay with us here at Vikings Game Day Live from U.S. Bank Stadium.
Botra. You're watching Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
And welcome back to U.S. Bank Stadium. Definitely a festive atmosphere. Why not? The weather's spectacular. The Vikings are in first place, and it's been a while since these fans have returned to U.S. Bank to watch their favorite football team. Mark Rosen along with Ron Johnson and Ben Lieber getting ready for kickoff here at noon, the Vikings and the Cardinals. But let's first go back to Dawn Mitchell on the field with the latest headlines. Dawn, looking good.
Yeah, not quite sure if I'm really good looking in a brunette kind of mullet, but I'm going with it. You know, earlier, PA and both of you had mentioned that Kyler Murray is a guy that needs to be contained, and with Jared Allen in the building, they're hoping there will at least be a sack, and maybe someone will celebrate with his calf tie celebration to honor him. But when it comes to the Vikings defense today, there's someone else you should be on the lookout when it comes to Kyler Murray, and that is linebacker Brian Asamoah. The two of them know each other well. They were teammates in Oklahoma, and now years ago, he had to spy Kyler Murray, and he said, quote unquote, I did it in practice when I was a true freshman on a scout team when he was a starting quarterback. And he said it didn't go well. It's hard to contain. We know that now in the NFL as well. But how about Asamoah? This week, Ed Donatel, the defensive coordinator, said his role will be expanding. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see him a couple of times spy on Kyler Murray today. Now, last year, you remember, Murray went off on the Vikings, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But this is a different year. Asamoah, the third-round draft pick, is 6'1", 228. He has been a standout on special teams, and 8 defensive snaps so far, 6 as a spy on Justin Fields when they played against the Bears. So look for Brian Asamoah to perhaps have an expanded role, but also look for the defense, of course. You want to stop the mobility of a Kyler Murray, and you certainly do not want him to connect with DeAndre Hopkins, who was targeted 14 times in his return against the Saints last week and had 10 receptions for 103 yards. So, all in all, Jared Allen's in the building, contain Kyler Murray, make sure he doesn't connect to DeAndre Hopkins, and hopefully the rest will be easy. We'll send it back to you.
All right, great points, Don. That's terrific stuff. Thank you so much. And really one of the big storylines for the Minnesota Vikings is this: the lack of names on their inactive list every single week. Jonathan Bullard, the defensive end, is the only Viking player inactive for today's game. As we turn back to Ron Johnson and Ben Lieber. Ben, we talked about this on the radio a couple days ago. I don't know. I'd like to hear your assessment about what's going on, the training situation. I mean, the Twins had all these issues all year long. And you told me in your own words, obviously, football players get hurt. There are injuries, but then there's other stuff that you can maybe be prevented. What are the Vikings doing right besides maybe some good fortune right now?
Well, I think there is a little bit of that, right? They've gotten a little bit lucky. I mean, sometimes injuries are a little fluky, but I really have to give them a lot of credit because they came in with this staff early on in the spring and said, here's our plan with the strength staff, all right? Here's our plan with the head trainer. Here's our plan from a nutrition standpoint. Here's our plan with the practice layout as far as how often we're going to hit and how often we're going to take each other to the ground and how hard we're going to scrimmage. And then really from the top down, it has been this collaborative approach with Tyler Williams. He's the director of player performance, health and performance. Uriah Myrie, he's the head trainer. And Josh Hinks, he's the director of player performance. All three of those guys have gelled together. So if a guy gets injured or banged up, that chain of command, so in the training room, they know exactly what to do. In the weight room, they know exactly what to do. And then the coaches are also on board. Ron, you know this. Back when we played, if you were a little bit nicked up, sometimes the coach is like, man, can you go?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Can you go? So they don't have that anymore. Now the coaches are in lockstep with what the ancillary staff is doing. So now the coaches aren't pressuring these guys to be out there and trying to push through some soft tissue stuff so they can give them time to heal. And as you see, we have one guy on the list.
Other than Lewis Cine with a compound fracture, which we saw in London, which, I mean, as you said, that could happen anywhere. Maybe his foot got stuck in the turf. It's been a real nice role. And that matters. But Bud Grant used to talk about durability being really the most important quality. Obviously, you have to have talent in order to win in the National Football League.
Yeah, no, Ben's right. I had a torn meniscus one time, and they had me play 6 games until the bye week so that I can get surgery during the bye and then come back 4 weeks later. Because we only had 4 active receivers, and 3 of them were old. I mean, Marcus Robinson was old. Frank Sanders was old. Brandon Stokely was old. So, you know, as a 22-year-old, they're like, hey, look, you'll be fine. Like, does it hurt or is it injured?
Yeah.
And I trusted that they wouldn't put me in a bad position, and I did it for 6 weeks. Probably wasn't a great idea, but I did it. And so when you look at this team, and Ben brought up a great point, coaches and trainers working together on the same page. That's the big key. If a coach,
and trust.
If a coach can go to the trainer and say, hey, what do you think? And then you can pull that guy off and say, hey, if we sit him for this week, or we sit him for 2 weeks, or if practice is this, I think we'll be fine to get through it. And so that's where Kevin O'Connell comes through, talking about the relationships and the relationship building and the cohesiveness within the building that the players are talking about. Like, that's rare when you think about a coach being able to go to the trainers and have trust, and that, like, they're going to trust the plan together. And I think that's the big thing. And again, the Lewis Seen thing, that can happen to anybody.
Yeah, right.
That's, ACLs and stuff like that. But, like, soft tissue, hamstrings, all that kind of stuff, that's just practice. That's being able to say, hey, we're going to dial it back on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll ramp it back up Friday maybe.
And given how close these games have been, it's always nice to rely on the guys you can kind of count on. The first liners and the Vikings have been there. Let's go around the NFC North. And are things changing? We got a long ways to go. We're not at the halfway point till next week as far as the Vikings are concerned. Packers are struggling. They play in Buffalo tonight. The Bears are, I don't want to say they're coming on, but they had a nice win last week. Who's a bigger threat in the division right now for the Minnesota Vikings?
It's still Green Bay.
I mean, am I fishing here?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, just because you feel like Green Bay's doing this a little bit, and then you watch Justin Fields have, like, there's some flashes of, like, oh, I think they have something. If he gets some on track and he plays more consistent, then that's a team you have to watch out for. The bottom line is the Chicago Bears are in sell mode. When they traded away Robert Quinn, they're telling the whole team, we are not competing this year. We are getting ready for next year. We're going to add some more draft picks. They sold off one of their best defensive players. Look, you can spin it any way you want. You can throw a bunch of cliches out there. They are not a team, to me, that are going to be all in to try to win this division this year.
Yeah, it seems like that's the case. I think that upset a lot of players on that Bears defense in particular. The Lions are still the Lions despite being on Hard Knocks this year. They're 1-5, and assuming their normal position, it seems like at the end of the train here in the NFC North.
Yeah, the Lions are going to lie in. Like, that's what they're going to do. Unfortunately, when you're playing against a team like Dallas, that's a ball you can't throw late when you have Trayvon Diggs in coverage. Ben brought this up, and you brought this up as well. We talked about this. Dan Campbell, or Pete Bursis did too. Dan Campbell doing some realistic things on fourth down sometimes, expecting his offense to every single time get the fourth down conversion, and you're putting your defense in the bind with the short field. And then at the end of the day, I mean, honestly, the Lions just have to find a way to find a better offensive strategy. Like, they are putting up a ton of yards, but then they're turning the ball over, or they're making bad plays in certain positions. Like, when I looked at the stats, I couldn't believe how far up the Lions were offensively, and then how far down they are defensively. It's just it's a marriage that's not working. They need to get divorced and figure out a better way.
It's way too early to scoreboard watch, but if you look at the standings right now, the Vikings can win this game today. And Green Bay's double-digit underdog for the first time under Aaron Rodgers. They could take a stranglehold on this division with a long ways to go. Yet, Ben, that's a position I don't think anyone thought the Minnesota Vikings would be in at this point of the year.
No, not at all. I mean, I think we all had high aspirations and we had high hopes with this staff and everything that they had preached in the offseason. But for these guys to go out there and execute the way that they are, to win games the way they are, and then to watch the division sort of crumble underneath them, it's the best case scenario. Now, the biggest thing is we talk about always handling success. You have to handle success. You can't be scoreboard watching. You can't watch and have what happens outside the division motivate how you play and you approach your game. So handle success the right way. Focus on the game that you have to play and that you can control. And let's hope that we can get a couple games on the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, the Vikings have one more at Washington next Sunday before that's the halfway point of the season. And it's put the pedal down. They got Dallas here, New England, the Thanksgiving week. Schedule's definitely going to get tougher and more interesting, but that's the fun part about the National Football League. The fans continue to stream in here at US Bank Stadium. Tons of them tailgating outside as well. You know what's going on. It's game day here on Fox 9. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
follow the lights. This is Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
And welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live. As Ron Johnson just mentioned during the commercial break to us, a lot of people here early today, a lot of them outside, enjoying this wonderful late October weather. Seen a few costumes as well. It must be, I think a lot of it is Jared Allen. A lot of it is the fact that the Vikings are 5-1. And welcoming back to U.S. Bank Stadium. And talk about winning formula. Let's go down to Gabe Henderson and Don Mitchell with more on their ideas for the winning formula for today's game. Gabe and Don?
Yeah. Rosie, you mentioned the Halloween costume. Adam Thielen came in with a scary clown costume. I mean, it was a vibe.
I think he dressed up as It. And I still have yet to see the movie because I don't watch scary movies at least past 6 p.m. So I think I may watch it post-game just to make sure I know what Adam Thielen was wearing. But I think it was one of the best costumes I've seen in a while.
Oh, yeah, it was scary. Maybe that is the mindset, right? Because they need a winning formula. They want to improve to 6-1. Yep. Let's start off first. It's the elephant that's in the room. He's not dressing up as an elephant, but Kyler Murray, you have to contain him.
You have to contain him, and you have to contain him early. And he's a guy that makes up 76% of this Arizona Cardinals offense. So everything runs through him. He runs the ball. He passes the ball. And if you're the outside contained, if you're Zadarius Smith or Danielle Hunter, you can't get too far afield because when Kyler Murray gets outside of the pocket, that's when he becomes dangerous. So contain him early. Don't let him get outside of the pocket and make him throw over the line of scrimmage.
You know what is interesting, too? We always talk about every team wanting to have a fast start, but especially so today because the Cardinals have just 6 points in 7 first quarters. So they do not get off the fast start. So if the Vikings can do so and take advantage, that's big.
Yeah, and on the defensive side of the ball, they're in the bottom tier as far as points allowed in the first half. So there are a lot of opportunities for the Vikings to score early. We do that often. We've never had a problem scoring first. It's continuing to put our foot on their throat and continue to score and score often because if you score on these guys early, they'll give up, and that's what we want.
And earlier, Pete Persich was saying this, it's a big point, too, that everyone's going to adapt and adjust. Yeah. And it seems the Vikings defense has been doing that, especially in the fourth quarter, and they've been coming through. But they need to do that early if they see something going on.
Especially in the third quarter, and we've seen a lot of teams adapting the third quarter against us. We're being outscored 33-6 in the third quarter, and the Vikings have to get out to a fast start when it comes to being in front coming out of the half. So I'm expecting the Vikings to, learn from some of their mistakes in the third quarter thus far. A lot of self-scout went into last week as far as watching the film of what we did right and what we did wrong the first 6 games. So I'm sure Kevin O'Connell knows the guys in the third quarter. Let's score a touchdown. We haven't scored a touchdown all year. Let's just score one and then see how the rest of the game goes.
And also, this goes part and parcel with Kyler Murray. Contain DeAndre Hopkins. Do not let him out.
If you do that, I think you have a really big game today. They want to get the ball to him early and often, and why not get some early interceptions if you're Patrick Peterson or Jordan Hicks, who used to play for the Cardinals. So let's have a big game for those two guys.
All right, well, that's the winning formula. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Don and Gabe, thanks so much. Keep in mind the Cardinals haven't won here in Minnesota since 1977. That's, of course, when they were the St. Louis Cardinals. Sink or sail. We got a lot of hot topics to talk about. Stay with us here as we wrap things up on Game Day Live from U.S. Bank.
SUV family.
Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Yes, it's time for Sink or Sail. And we have a lot to talk about. You know, it's interesting. I ran into Wes Phillips last night, Vikings offensive coordinator. This could be an interesting sink or sail, but the brief conversation was the Vikings win the toss. Normally teams defer to the second half, right? That's what the analytics say. The Vikings aren't doing that, and they're not going to do it today, what I got the sense of. If they win the toss, they'll probably end up with the ball either way because if Arizona wins it, they'll probably defer to the second half. I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on that before we launch into the rest of our topics.
I say if you want to put your foot on their throat, take the ball. Like if you feel like your offense can come out and make a statement early for this crowd, get the crowd hyped, take the ball. Why not?
But the analytics say just wait because you might get double possession. Get one at the first one, the last one at the end of the first half. But do you feel like the Vikings have had some really good first drives?
Yeah, they really have. The last game they won the toss and they took the ball and they played great. Look, I think that they have so much confidence in their scripted plays. They want to get out. They want to gain that momentum. And they've been so good defensively and offensively at the end of each half. So, I don't know. Maybe throw the analytics out the window and say the analytics really aren't pertaining to what our team is doing right now because we're kind of bucking the trend. So, I don't know. I kind of like this aggressive stance.
I do, too. I think we'll see it again today. Let's get Don Mitchell involved with this. Don, I'll fire the first question at you. Will the Vikings have over 350 total yards? The Cardinals have been averaging giving up about 357.
You know, that's their average, 357, so I'm going to sail that. I think these guys are ready. They're fired up, and I want to see JJ kind of come out of the gate, get at least another 100 himself. So I'm just going to sail that.
I'm going to go with it as well. I'm going to go sail. I think they're going to hit over that. I think we all agree with it.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
This team's going to come out of the bye looking pretty strong.
Don, you mentioned, we've been talking about Dalvin Cook. Will he finally break 100 yards rushing? He's been in the 90s a couple times. You've watched how close he's come. You're going sink.
Yeah, I'm sinking it. I think it's going to be just shy. I would love for him to break through, but I think it's going to be maybe a heavy air game. I don't know why I'm feeling that today, so I'm going to sink that.
Yeah, prove it, I guess. I have to go the same way. I'm going to go with the same. Looks like we all are.
Yeah, I'm singing it. They have the 6th ranked defense in rush. They have the 25th ranked defense in pass. Kirk Cousins is about to have a show.
Yeah. I'm going to sell that.
Are you? All right.
I'm going to sell it. Look, he went for 131 last year, so let's just hope that they found something, a chink in the armor of that defense, see if it carries over all these games later, a whole season later. But I'm going to be optimistic and go, yes, he's going to go over 100.
This next one's more subjective. Will Kyler Murray have a quote-unquote breakout game? I mean, the kind of thing that will help turn around his season and the Cardinals' season as they loiter around the 500 mark. Don?
You know, I'm going with a wish right now. I'm saying no. I'm hoping they contain him. I'm hoping that's a no. So this is more of a wish than a certainty.
Yeah, I'm going to go with sink because I think it's going to be harder for him to maintain it, to sustain it. He had a big game against the Vikings last year, and much different playing here at US Bank with the crowd noise and everything that affects him.
Yeah, I'm going to sink that as well. You look at the height of these defensive linemen, the defensive ends. We saw the highlights from the sacks last year. He struggles when he's in the pocket if he can't really see over them.
Ben's going to sail.
I'm going to sail it. Look, he's been talking about getting Zach Ertz more involved. DeAndre Hopkins last week, 46% of the time was lined up in the slot. And, you know, I don't think that he's going to be lined up in the slot just going on those deep overs. I think he's going to attack that middle part of the defense between the hashes where our defense has not been very good. You get Robbie Anderson on the outside. I think as much as he wants to run the football, he's going to scramble, extend some plays, and let those big guys get open.
He made the 2 Cardinals fans happy.
Will the Vikings hold the Cardinals? Kind of an over-under one here, Don. Will the Vikings hold the Cardinals to under 10 points in the first half? They have failed to score more than 10 points in the first half in 6 of the 7 games this year. They've been outscored tremendously in the first quarter.
Yeah, they've only scored 6 points, right? That's the most they've ever scored in the 7 first quarters so far this year. So I'm going to go with that. Yeah, I'm going to sell that.
I'd have to agree with that as well. Until again proven otherwise, you got to go with the
time of possession. The offensive time of possession in the first half of the Vikings is great. They're going to keep that offense off the field for the Cardinals. That's why.
Man,
I stole your point. I'm sorry.
You took my final thought.
I got to come up with a new final time.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
You're going to call an audible.
I was in your closet. I was in your closet watching you.
I'll just reiterate what Ron said.
Are the Cardinals not doing enough to keep Cliff Kingsbury for next year? Kingsbury for his job next year, Don Mitchell, for 2023. I mean, is he on the hot seat right now?
He's definitely on the hot seat. I think if they lose tonight, I think that they're not going to keep him around. But if they win, so this is one of my flip-flops.
Yeah.
Depends on the outcome today.
I say he comes back next year. I don't think they want to start firing coaches, but, who knows? At the whim of an owner, things aren't going well. That's what normally happens.
He's coming back. I mean, him and like Ben said, they have a great relationship. That's tough to get rid of a head coach and the quarterback license. You just paid the guy. They brought the Brinks truck up to his house. You got to let this offense get figured out with the quarterback you paid for.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna sail that as well. I think he sticks around. I mean, it's not gonna look pretty, but it does depend on how the team responds throughout the rest of the season. But I think he comes back.
Final question quickly, my favorite one. Will the Vikings have a 3.5 game lead in the North after today? I mean, the Vikings need to win. Green Bay would have to lose at Buffalo tonight, double-digit underdogs, and the Bears losing to Dallas. I say absolutely, it's going to happen.
I agree.
All three.
I agree. Vikings win. Vikings win. Packers lose.
Yeah. I think we'll all agree with that. But we've got to prove it on the field now. Scary game for the Vikings coming off a bye. That's what we'll see. Don, thanks so much. Final thoughts, guys. Ben, you just mentioned it. I'll give you a chance. You got to call an audible right now.
Well, Omaha! I'm not going to call the audible. I'll just expand on the point that I do think that time of possession is one of the metrics that we watch. And at the end of the game, we're going to say, look, I think the Vikings won this game because they controlled the ball. Now, whether they win the coin toss and go down the field and score and all that other stuff, we'll see. But take time of possession, get the ball out of Kyler's hands.
We got to run. Kudos to Jared Allen, Vikings, Cardinals, 49ers, Rams, and Vikings postgame tonight at 10:35. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy the game on this beautiful day. Thanks for watching.
Incumbent Gretchen Whitmer as she faces a challenge from Republican Tudor Dixon. This afternoon, former President Obama held a campaign rally for Whitmer in Detroit. Obama won Michigan back in 2008 and 2012, and his star power may help shore up support among Democrats who may not feel